Lakers and Clippers did not disappoint in the NBA's return last night. Each team led by double figures at one point, and it included a 26-5 run by the Clippers and a 36-14 run by the Lakers. The game still came down to the wire as LeBron put back his own miss to go up 2 with 12 seconds left. And on the final play, LeBron ended up guarding both Kawhi and Paul George, who missed the potential game winner. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is joining us now. Chris, it felt good to watch basketball last night. What was your biggest takeaway?
Well, yeah, it definitely felt good. You couldn't ask for a better restart if you're the NBA with both games. But look, I told you guys, I was on the show yesterday, I said it's very much a must-win for the Lakers, and they played like it. They came out and played like they needed that victory. So good for them. It's 2-2 in the regular season series. When they meet each other in the playoffs, it'll be even. So that's great for all the NBA fans. But for people like myself that picked the Clippers to beat the Lakers in the playoffs, there's no reason for me to be discouraged whatsoever. I mean, they were right there, had a chance to win that game without Montrezl Harrell, without Lou Williams, with Patrick Beverley limited to 16 minutes, with their offense very much disjointed at times because of different guys being in the lineup that usually aren't playing. They had 20 turnovers last night, so you could see it right there, and yet they still were in the game. The difference last night was the bench. The Lakers bench with Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, Dion Waiters, those guys were great. They all had high plus minuses, whereas four of the Lakers starters all had negative plus minuses. And then on the opposite side, the Clippers bench was a problem and struggled. But we know when Harrell and Lou Williams get back, that's not going to be an issue. So, again, as a guy that picked the Clippers, I feel very confident. Now, there's an interesting thing developing in this series. You see that the Clippers give LeBron major problems, right? And that's to be expected when they got two of the best perimeter defenders in the league in Kawhi and Paul George. LeBron in the 4 games against the Clippers, 37% field goal percentage. That's his lowest against any team he's played more than once this season. 21 points a game. That's 4 or 5 below his season average. But what's interesting is, and last night he really struggled, obviously, in the first 3 quarters. In the fourth quarters, the last 2 games that the Lakers have won, LeBron has been very good. 7 points last night, 2 assists on 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. Obviously, the 2 drives in the last minute and a half, including the game winner. And Anthony Davis, while a lot of people might praise him, and he was great in the first 3 quarters, he scored 2 points in the fourth. He's got 10 points in the fourth quarters of the 4 games against the Clippers. So the question for the Lakers is, is that the formula? Can they trust that formula? Is it AD's going to carry them through 3 quarters? And can they trust that LeBron's just going to be able to dominate in the fourth? That's a tough thing to do when you got such great defense on the perimeter by the Clippers. So I was discouraged that AD didn't do a little more in the fourth. And then finally, let me throw this in. LeBron's defense was phenomenal. That's a big sign for Lakers fans. They got to like that. When he wanted to, he locked down Kawhi and Paul George.
The last game they played, I think it was March the 8th or the 9th. Did Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell play?
Did Avery Bradley play?
Skip, it's not your turn. I'm just asking Chris Broussard.
Oh, you're asking
I'm not saying that they're going to sweep them.
No, Skip. I didn't ask you if they're going to. That's not what it is.
LeBron was great in that one.
Chris, all I asked was a simple question. The last time they played them at the Clippers, at their home, did Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell play?
Yes.
And what was the score? What was the outcome of that game? Because the problem that you guys say is that you make it seem like the Clippers are unbeatable. Oh, they get all these guys. All I know is that they had 2 superstars. They had 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA. We got 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA. Okay.
But after that, they got more. And you know that. That's the difference.
Do I believe LeBron? I believe, when I watch these games, I think LeBron James makes a concerted effort to try to get Anthony Davis off first. And in the process of doing that, he throws himself out of a rhythm. And so if you look at last night, what was he doing with the ball? he almost every time he came down the court, he's trying to find Anthony Davis because he knows they have no answer for him. None, zero. So you can get Trez back. You can get Joakim Noah. He put 32 on Joakim and Zubats in 3 quarters. He played a little bit more than they probably wanted him to in the 3rd quarter. He played the entire 3rd quarter. And they asked Coach Vogels about that. And he said he had the hot hand, we rode him, and he kept us close. Now go, James, bring us home. And what he do, Chris? All I know is this, what we do know. When Kawhi Leonard was trying to get to the basket and LeBron James says, I don't want you to get to the basket, where did he go? When Paul George was trying to get to the basket and LeBron James says, I don't want you to get to the basket, where did he go? Kyle Kuzma and Dion Waiters. I like that. I like what I saw last night because we got 2 guys that can create their own shot. Minus Rondo, Caruso was a little shaky at points in time last night, but we got this. I want that same manager, Chris Broussard. You see the look on your face right now?
You gonna get it. You gonna get it. You gonna get it.
I have a question for Shannon Sharp.
What you want now?
Did Anthony Davis play in the 4th quarter last night? I'm not sure he did.
Yeah, he played.
He didn't make a field goal. He took 1 shot. He missed it. He did make his 2 free throws because he makes every free throw. He made 16 out of 17 free throws, which became really the difference in the game. But he didn't score a field goal in the 4th quarter. And you have the audacity to try to tell the people out there in our audience they have no answer for him.
They don't.
He's the answer to himself in the 4th quarter because he disappears in lots of 4th quarters, as Chris Broussard just pointed out, against the Clippers. Help me out.
Your 2 superstars scored a combined total of 1 point when they was guarded by LeBron James in the 4th quarter. That's what we know. Now, Anthony Davis played all 12 minutes in the 3rd. I'm sure Frank Vogel wanted to get him a break, but he had it going. And Chris, you know, in games like this, when a guy gets it going, you're not taking him out.
Here's the other thing with AD. I want him scoring closer to the basket against the Clippers. I'm not going to count on AD hitting all these threes. We saw him hit the 2 threes in the 3rd quarter. He looked great. But I need him closer to the basket against the Clippers. He's a good perimeter player for a big man. He's not Kevin Durant or Dirk Nowitzki or something like that. So the fact that he's floating around on the perimeter, I don't like that as much.
He shot 17 free throws. Where do you think they was fouling him at? The 3-point line?
Yeah, sometimes.
He got to the line. Yeah, and he got to the look. He got to the line. You're right. But I just need a steady diet. And again, it's nice to be able to step out to the perimeter and have that in your game. But I want him closer to the basket. And I believe the Lakers want him a little closer to the basket against the Clippers because that's what they're going to need from him. Look, you're right, Shannon. LeBron was great in the 4th. His defense was phenomenal. But is he going at 35? That's going to have to be how it is. They're going to need more from AD in the 4th so he can help LeBron if they're going to beat the Clippers 4 out of 7.
Kuz and Dion Waiters.
So, Shannon Sharp.
What?
This was the definition of a moral victory. It was. Chris Broussard is dead on right about this because the Clippers were stuck playing Landry Shamet, who had played 0 scrimmage minutes, and he was a liability last night. 1 for 8 from the field, 0 for 6 from the 3-point line. They were stuck playing Marcus Morris, who looked like he'd never played basketball last night, 0 for 4 from the field and couldn't guard anybody. They were stuck with Reggie Jackson playing 34 minutes at point guard because Patrick Beverly had played 0 minutes in any scrimmage. Patrick Beverly was really good. If he could have played 25, 30 minutes last night, Clippers win that game.
He kept y'all in the game.
That's what I'm saying, but he got stuck playing 15 minutes because he just wasn't ready. Reggie Jackson goes 3 for 10 and had a hard time on defense. At one point, Marcus Morris was so bad getting up the floor. Remember, Caruso just beat him up the floor, dribbling right-handed, and laid it in. That's how bad it got.
You heard he said, Chris, he up here talking about Landry Shamet. Like, oh, Landry Shamet was 1 of 8. Just because Landry Shamet is light-skinned, that don't make him Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, okay?
But he is a starter for the Clippers.
Okay.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
And he was pretty awful last night. Okay, so in the end...
guys who didn't recognize getting minutes last night. Shannon, you know that.
Okay, so in the end, despite all those liabilities, the Los Angeles Clippers had a last shot to either tie or ultimately to win the game. And I know it was a poor possession. It was a bad idea because they had no plan. And Chris, I have told Shannon from the start of this show, I do not believe that Kawhi Leonard is a natural-born closer, nor do I believe that Paul George is anything but George Paul with the game on the line down the stretch as we often saw against LeBron James. They need Lou Williams. They need Montrez. Those are their fourth quarter closers. They're door slammers, the most dynamic bench duo in all of basketball, and obviously they weren't there last night. If they had played in that game, I believe the Clippers would have won that game by 15 because they would have put them in mid-third quarter, and it would have just gotten worse and worse for the Lakers.
But, Chris, but you notice you didn't hear Skip say anything about Kawhi Leonard should have dribbled the basketball, risen up over LeBron James. He's the greatest mid-range shooter since Michael Jordan.
I told you that.
Now, if LeBron James passes up the ball, whoa, what's going to be said, Chris Broussard?
Well, he ran from the free throw line. That's what I would say. And, one thing about Kawhi Leonard.